Good morning, good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of Random Trek. I am your time-hopping captain, Christopher Ingle, joined as always by my first officer, the man who has been back and forth through time and has been through the ringer, Commander Brennan, the Mystic Mar. Brennan, how did you like Toronto?
Hot dogs.
I've seen TV shows filmed in Toronto, but I've never seen one taking place in Toronto.
Yes, that was
This was
very
a first
interesting.
for me. Today, we are taking a look at season 2 of Star Trek Strange New Worlds' third episode, Tomorrow, and Tomorrow, and Tomorrow.
Oh, yes.
This is a good one. This is another timey-wimey, time-hopping event. But by far, this is Christina Chong's best episode, bar none.
Yes, but I would argue that the musical episode,
The
she
musical's
has a
good, but it plays
great
off of
moment.
this. You don't get the intrigue that she
That's
has
true. That's
without
true.
this episode. So
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely. What did
that's
you
very
think?
true.
What did you think? This came out in summer of 2023, so it's been about a year and a half.
Yeah,
What did you think coming back to this one?
I remembered that this one really stood out.
Hmm.
Um, it's very much in the tradition of City on the Edge of Forever,
Yes.
where it, there may be a few things you can question, but don't try to think too hard, and then it ultimately builds to a very powerful ending.
Hmm.
So yeah, this is a good one.
Oh yeah. I sat down with Lisa. Lisa and I watched this. And she is not the greatest fan of Strange New Worlds. It's just not her thing.
Yeah,
But I sat with her in this and she was like, this is really good. And she's like, and that Kirk, he's not like an over exaggerate, like he's really good.
mhm.
Yeah. And I said, wait till we get more of him. We're gonna get more of him in the future. So
Yes,
that'll be
oh
great.
yes,
But let's get into the details of this episode. I'm going to keep the details short and sweet because there's a lot to talk about in this episode.
yes,
So this is a La'an focused episode. 100%. This is her
yes,
show.
oh
And
yes.
she's talking about her humdrum life as security and every day having to settle minor disputes and, kind of a little bit of a reminiscent of um Chris Pine's speech in Star Trek Beyond. Just a little bit, kind of, I love my job, but it's a little dull at
Well,
times.
Data's Day also a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. Well, as she is through walking through the corridor, a mysterious wounded man appears in front of her on the Enterprise. And he's dying. He's been shot. And she recognizes that he's been shot by a bullet. Very good job on her recognizing that. And he gives her a time traveling device and then dies.
Mhm.
Uh, and then all of a sudden, kind of a ripple effect happens, and
Yes,
red alert is happening. What's going on? La'an goes to the bridge, and she finds herself in an alternate timeline. In this timeline, Earth is ravaged by war, and the Enterprise is not captained by Christopher Pike, but one James Tiberius Kirk.
indeed.
Yes. So Kirk, she has to speak with Kirk privately. They don't recognize her at all in any way. Kirk obliges and talks to her and listens, and he's like, it doesn't make sense. You could just be an enemy. We haven't, countering everything. In this timeline, the Federation doesn't exist. It does not exist at all. Instead, Earth is kind of on its own and
It's
is,
still very much like Enterprise.
yeah, it's a lot like Enterprise. It is the United Earth Fleet ship, UEF, not Federation. Um, and she's trying to figure this out, and she realizes we could use this device to fix this. Maybe, I don't know. Kirk tries to take it from her. and they both end up getting teleported through time uh, to Earth, specifically Toronto,
Mm.
in the 2020s. Not too distant future for us.
Mhm.
Yeah, and a really interesting. First, Kirk says they're in New York, but she says, "No, don't you recognize this dude? It's Toronto." Anyway, so they end up in Toronto, um, and they figure the reason they're there is to stop something from happening. Now, the guy that she met said, "Get to the bridge. Get to the bridge." So she went to the bridge. That's why she went to the bridge in the first place. But while they're there, again, we talked about this a little bit in Carbon Creek. They use their abilities to make money. Kirk plays chess. He
Yes.
hustles people in chess. I love seeing that aspect
In
of
fact,
Kirk.
he says two-dimensional chess is too easy.
You and I have to play 3D chess one of these days.
Mm.
We do need to do that. Anyway, uh, so they're in their hotel room after earning enough money, and there's this beautiful new bridge in Toronto that explodes right in front of them. And they
Mm.
realize, get to the bridge,
Mm.
which is what they do. Um, so there's a point of divergence that they're trying to figure out what happens. And they realize, no, it's not the bridge being blown up because that happened in both timelines. They both realize that. So they're trying to figure it out. They get there. They're introduced to this photographer who actually saves them a little bit, saves their bacon, which is really cool. Um, and so they meet with this photographer, and they find that there are a lot of theories as to what's going on, but they discover a picture on her camera of what looks like a classic Romulan bird of prey. And so we
Yes.
discover that the Romulans have been going
Yes.
back in
They're
time to
involved.
alter Earth's history.
Oh,
Right.
yes.
Absolutely. Um, Now they realize, okay, if the Romulans are involved, there's got to be a way to track them. There's got to be a way to track what's going on and to prevent it from happening any further. And they realize, okay, there's a radiation signature. Well, we can't use any of our tech to do that. How are we going to do that? We need to go to somebody. And they end up going to Vermont, and we discover Pelia there, which was kind of they let us know this was going to happen at the beginning of the
Yeah,
episode, but
they
they
did.
discover
Yes.
Pelia. And Pelia goes ahead and helps them.
And
Right.
Carol Kane is so delightfully
Oh,
goofy.
so much fun.
Yes.
um. So they end up finding their way to this lab, to this building. They go in and they're detecting it, and they find that the signal that they're searching for is behind this locked door that requires a biometric scan. You have to put your hand there, and it knows who you are. Kirk's like, all right, we'll take out somebody and we'll force it. And she realizes, no, we don't have to do that. Look, and we look over the sign, and the sign says that the institute that they are in belongs to Noonien Singh,
Oh, yes.
which, of course, as we know, is her ancestor. But what I really love is we know that this is it Alton? Which is the one from Picard.
The data.
The yeah no the
Oh,
Noonien
Noonien
Singh,
Soon.
yeah, the Noonien Singh
Yeah, it's
of
Alton
the
Noonien Soon.
past.
Yes.
Yes. Anyway,
Or
uh,
whichever one is on Earth back in the. Yeah, I don't know.
mhm, right.
The one in LA. That's all I know.
Yes. It gets confusing. It really does. But you start to realize it after a while. I always question too the naming of Sun and Singh. It gets
Yeah,
so
Noonien
confusing.
Soon, Noonien Singh.
Yes. The point is that we discovered that this is indeed the laboratory of Data's ancestor. Interesting. But if you saw season 3 of
Uh,
Picard or season 2
did
of
I miss
Picard,
it? Did the sign say Noonien Soon or Noonien Singh?
you know what? I'm going to confirm that. I'm going to bring that up and confirm
Yeah,
it.
because I was going to say, what does it say on that sign?
I thought it did.
I thought it said Noonien Singh, but.
Let me double check here real fast.
Mhm.
Corridors. I'm looking at the specific details here.
Yeah, this is what you get through our lives.
There it is. The Noonien Singh Institute of Cultural
Yeah, I was
Advancement.
gonna say I don't think it belongs to Data's ancestry, but
I thought it was.
I'll bet you anything he's got something to do with it.
Well, considering the end of season 2 of Picard,
Yes,
yes, absolutely. Anyway,
yes.
what we find out is that the photographer has been following them, couldn't figure out how to get in. The photographer is actually an undercover Romulan.
Hmm.
And she lets us know that she has been trapped since the 1990s. She came to the 1990s to kill someone, but time got messed with due to the other Romulans that have been poking around. Apparently, the Romulans have been going through time and have been doing little things to Earth, not enough to massively shift it, but enough to try to change Earth's overall history
Maybe that
subtly.
explains why the timeline's a little messy.
And yes, the timeline is a little bit messy.
Mhm.
That's why we are where we are. So she's been trapped for over 30 years and is pretty done with it. So they get down to a door that we find is Khan's door. Her goal is to kill Khan in his young years. And the idea being that if Earth never goes through the torture of the eugenics wars of World War III, the Federation will never be founded. First contact will never happen. None of it will happen. And so they get into a fight, but she ends up winning. Unfortunately, the casualty being the Romulan kills herself in the end with a phaser blast, and one James Kirk from the alternate timeline is killed, which really sets her off. But by destroying the Romulan, by saving Khan, and that's the interesting thing here. She goes in and we see Khan as a child.
He's like 8.
And she
It's
has a
just a little kid.
moment. She has a chance to end the suffering. But if she kills Khan, she won't exist. And so she protects Khan.
Also, she'd be killing a child.
She would be killing a child. And we'll get into that, into the ethical dilemmas here.
Yes, yes.
This is the baby Hitler problem.
Yeah, yes.
It's the baby
We'll
Hitler
get
problem.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, the device that she's had that protects her from timeline changes reactivates, and she presses it and goes back and ends up back in the Enterprise in the proper timeline.
And all is well. Yes.
All is well. But um, she sees that Pike is on the bridge, and Pelia is arguing that the devices or the things that she has belongs to her, which we now know they do. She never
Yes.
stole them; they were on loan to her.
Yes.
She goes back to her quarters and is met with a representative from Temporal Investigations.
Ah, yes. It just like Dumbledore and Luxley.
Mm-hmm. And they tell her, look, you were never supposed to be a part of this, but the mission is completed because of you, and we thank you for that. But you can never talk about this with anyone. And she gets frustrated and angry that, what are you talking about? Like, I watched a man die. This man, and what am I supposed to do? I can't talk about this. No one. And they're like, yeah, you don't really have a choice here. You have to do it. And
And
we'd
what
like our device.
complicates it is that she was kind of in
She was
love with
falling
Kirk.
for Kirk. Yeah, falling for
Yeah.
Kirk. She ends up giving the device back, and the person zips through time, and she sits on her bed with the only remnant left, which is a watch they used to help track down the radiation signature that they were looking for. So that's the only thing left. She even calls up James Kirk, which of course plays later into a great reveal during the musical episode.
Yes.
Yes. So La'an is left tortured and in pain. And that's how the end of the episode ends.
Loving uncontrollably.
Yeah, which we never see that side of her.
Mm-mm.
Never. It's amazing. All right. Let's start with performances in this, because this is a two-person show. Let's start with La'an. How do we feel about Christina Chong's performance? I think you heard from me. I'm all for this.
She is terrific in this episode.
Mhm.
The character was a bit stoic earlier on,
Mhm.
this is where we really get to see the the side of her that she doesn't want people to see.
Mm-hmm.
She wants everyone to think she's tough as nails and no nonsense, which she is.
Mm-hmm.
But this gives us insight into that there is a lot more. And also the fact that we knew this going into the show when we heard that her name was Noonien Singh.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody went, oh, because they knew what that name meant.
Yep.
Everybody turned into Leonardo DiCaprio pointing at the TV.
Mm-hmm.
That famous meme going, oh my gosh. And they did address it a bit in season one.
Mm-hmm.
This is where she really has to confront the legacy of her ancestor.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that Christina Chong really delivers in this episode.
So much. I just,
Yeah.
you know, we've always only seen her really as she never no she's no fun. And that has been brought up before that she's not really a lot of fun. Even
Yes.
when we caught her playing Enterprise Bingo with number one,
Yes.
not much fun. She's very stoic, but when you consider the pressure that she's under being the descendant of a madman,
Mhm.
and people know it. They know that name. And what's crazy is, they don't even know yet what's going to go down as time goes along and how much worse that's going to be. But she's living that down every day and regretting it and who she is,
Yeah.
and yet she does her duty with diligence. And I think it eats at her the loneliness that exists. And so she ends up meeting Paul Wesley. And it's not the first time Paul Wesley has been here. We have talked about Paul Wesley when, again, another alternate Kirk during the finale of season one.
Which is quite good.
It was really good. And again, that sense of Kirk, as we got him. But this really allowed us to see what Paul Wesley could do. Um, and I gotta say, like, I like him a little more than I like Pine. And I'm really surprised by my thought on that.
Interesting.
There's just like there is a subtlety to him where I feel like he's a young Shatner. In all the good ways, he's channeling him really well. In the way that
Not
uh
doing an impression of
yeah,
Lenny
in the
Kravitz.
JJ verse, the spirit was there, but because this was a different universe, because the circumstances were different, he could afford to play him just a little differently. With enough there that reminds us, yes, this is Kirk. But here, this is Kirk. This is our Kirk, with the big
Mhm.
exception that this Kirk is not our Kirk because he was born. This was a touch that I loved. He was born on the USS Iowa and not
Yes,
Iowa.
and not in real Iowa.
Yeah, which was a line that she made. She calls and asks, what was Sam's birthplace? Iowa,
Riverside, Iowa.
Riverside, Iowa, same as me. You mean the actual Iowa on Earth? Yeah, is there another?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a great line and a great touch.
And
That it was
and
the
he is terrific in this, and I think that it's always hard stepping into the shoes of an iconic character.
Mhm. But
But I
his
loved it, and I love the fact that the alternate Kirk didn't know a thing about what does Noonien Singh mean.
Mhm.
And I
Yes.
think that was a great moment because it allowed her to go, there is finally someone who will not judge me
Mhm.
based on my ancestry.
Right.
And I think that that's maybe the reason she was willing to open up to him emotionally
Mhm.
the way that she doesn't do to other characters.
Yeah, she's the chemistry between the two of them is fabulous.
It is, and I love I mean, it's not, it's an hour long episode, it's not that long, but you really do feel the romance between them
Mhm.
as 100% believable.
There's a really great. I mean, obviously there is a kiss.
Mhm.
It's a very good kiss for the chemistry. Like
Yes, it
I
is.
buy it. But my favorite moment between them actually is the hot dogs. The hot
Yes,
dog scene was really
yes.
good. He offers her a hot dog, and she's like, No, no, I'm not gonna eat that. No, absolutely not." He's like, "Fine," and he eats one, and he's like, "Listen, I don't know what's going on here, but never turn down good fresh hot dogs, especially from the source."
Yes.
Being that he's not had Earth hot dogs, but yet he knows what they are because replicators or
Mhm.
synthesizers or whatever they're using. So, I love that, and the chemistry in there is just like I'm eating a hot dog and you're not, and it was kind of funny. It
Yes.
was, it was hilarious, but you saw something there that I
Mhm.
really liked. Absolutely fabulous chemistry building, and they took the time. Um, the car sealing scene that was hilarious.
Yes.
Love that. Which again, we know Kirk knows how to drive, even though it's an alternate reality. We know he does.
Yes.
That was hilarious. In fact, one of the things that I loved is if you look at the license plate is a call to him. So the license plate says JT22K33. JTK referring to James T. Kirk. And the 22 and 33 refers to the year of his birth, 2233. So that was a nice little touch that I really liked in there. But having the twist in the end being that she has to protect this child that will soon become the most devastating person since Adolf Hitler
Yes.
to Earth's history, and she has to save him. That's hence the baby Hitler problem. You
Now,
know,
for those who may not know, it is an ethical question of if you could go back in time, would you kill Hitler as a child to prevent World War II?
I really love this problem,
Or
and
any dictator?
you're right. But this problem came to me first years ago. I'm a big fan of the Outer Limits. I
Oh,
love.
yeah, sure.
Yeah, of course, Outer Limits is great. Twilight Zone is wonderful,
Mhm.
but Outer Limits always went a little step further in the science fiction realm, and I liked that.
Yes.
So in the new Outer Limits that came in the '90s, there was an episode where somebody went back in time with the purpose of killing baby Adolf Hitler to prevent World
Mhm.
War II. Well, they end up stealing the child. They become like a nanny or a housekeeper or something like that. They steal the child and successfully kill the child. But the family ends up killing the time agent as a result. Um, but um, one person remains, didn't want to go back with a dead child. So they stole a child from like a gypsy or a homeless person. They stole a child and brought that back and raised it as Adolf Hitler.
Mm.
So the very
Very
interference,
boys from Brazil kind of
mhm,
feel. Yeah.
the interference and what they were trying to prevent caused the very event. It's a causality loop that we see in
Yeah.
time travel
Yeah.
stories.
If it had not been him, it would have been somebody else.
Hmm. Yeah. So
Yeah. I mean, it's a great ethical question because I think for me, and there is no right or wrong answer here, but I think for me, I would not, because what you would essentially do is if you were to kill this person as a child,
mhm,
one, you would be killing a child who at that point is innocent. And two, you'd be robbing that child of their agency.
mhm,
Because it's all about the choices that he made, or in this case, that Khan would make. But to kill him in that moment would be to deny him of his choices. And even though he might choose a bad thing, which we know he does, robbing him of his agency would be wrong, in my opinion.
mhm. I agree. This was so good.
And I like that they threw that ethical dilemma in there.
I also love that the blatant willingness to kill another Kirk. That's crazy. Like it's
Yeah,
Kirk. You don't think he's going to die, and yet he's killed right then and there.
yeah,
By a gunshot of all things,
yeah.
and a dare. He sat there daring the Romulan. Come on, shoot me. But if you shoot me, all the alarms are going to go off, and you're going to get caught, and you won't get anywhere. So come on, I dare you, shoot
Just
it.
trying.
And she tried to call his bluff, and Kirk wasn't lying.
Yeah.
It was so great.
And I gotta say, the end of this episode, the scene with Khan when Bond decides not to kill him, and her final emotional breakdown at the end are really some of the best moments from this show,
Mm-hmm.
which is full of great moments. But the climax that this builds to is earned and it's very moving.
Yeah. This is so good, and it connects a lot of things. The temporal Cold War, it makes reference to that, and
Oh, yeah.
obviously, uh, uh, you know, the many things that have been happening with time travel and their attempt to kind of fix why the world didn't turn out the way it did. I really
Hmm.
appreciate that, and they tell us, time changes slowly. It's not as quick as you think it is.
Yeah.
I love the moving, and then again connecting it to Picard season 2 with Project Con. You know,
Oh, yes.
oh yeah, moving that in. Um, but this is great. Did you know that this is the first official time in either the movies or the show that uh it is acknowledged that he was born in Riverside, Iowa?
Yes. And I
I
do believe that's a reference to the films,
mhm.
the JJ films.
Right. The film created it as Riverside, but in the prime timeline that we are dealing with, that has never been said. Just
Yeah.
Iowa. He just
But
says
now I
Iowa.
know.
Yeah, no, neat little thing. I was like, that's cool.
Hmm.
That's actually really cool. Um, I really want this to play out a little more though, and I really do hope in the future we they've touched on the temporal Cold War piece by piece by piece by piece from Enterprise on. It's come up multiple times. I would love it if this in this coming season plays out a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah.
More from the Romulans. What's going on with the Romulans? Why
Yes,
are they
that would be
doing
cool.
this? Building tensions as the Romulans to be the
Our captain is frozen, so I will continue. But basically the idea that we want the storyline of the Temple Cold War to be fleshed out. Okay, now he's back. All
There
right.
we go. I don't know what that was. Okay. It's really, really fabulous, and
Yes.
it's an action packed episode. It's a well thought episode. Very good timey wimey stuff. I
Mhm.
really enjoy this. Um, it was a blast to get to sit and watch it, and the connections that have been going through.
It is. It just, I mean, Star Trek. It's interesting that the time travel episodes are often some of their best episodes.
Hmm. And I agree with you too on the line that it really did feel like a city on the edge of forever.
Mhm.
It had that feeling to it, that trappedness. How do we get out? What do we fix? What do we need to do? And the same way that Edith Keeler had to die, Khan has to live. You flip it on its side.
It's those weird ethical choices that Star Trek deals with.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely.
And it does it so very well.
Yes. Definitely a high recommendation for me.
Yes, I would agree.
Um, Connect this again with the this whole season connects really well into uh, uh the musical episode.
Yeah.
Really, all of
Subspace Rhapsody.
yes, all of the plot points that they reference from this to Spock's relationship with Chapel. Like it all comes together. Pike's relationship, it all comes in. But this was one of the first ones that really kind of had those repercussions coming down the line
Indeed.
for that season. It was so good. High recommendation on this one. Christina Chong's best. It's great to see her vulnerable.
Yes.
Oh, and he apparently Kirk is a civil rights lawyer.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I still laugh at that so much, but anyway. Oh, all right. Well, next week we go back to TOS. Yes. Oh, you know what? There was one more thing I forgot.
Uh-oh.
The title. I wanted to reference the title.
Oh, yes. I got the
Tomorrow and
reference.
tomorrow and tomorrow. Yeah.
Great
So
this steady pace from day to day till all our yesterdays will lighted tools.
mhm.
Lights a dusty death, out, breathe candles.
Well,
And
this is all
that whole speech.
it's also it's also in reference to the Scottish play. Act 5 Scene 5, which is funny.
Actually, that's what I was quoting, but yeah.
Were you? I was like, I have the
Yeah,
shortened version.
that's the quote, yeah. We freeze again, baby. But to those who don't know, the it's a reference to the Scottish play, which, according to tradition, one must not say out loud. But yes,
Testing.
oh, now you're back.
There
Okay,
we are.
good.
Yeah. I'll keep it simple. Q references this very same speech that this
Yes, he
title comes
does.
from. Life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more. It is tale told by an idiot, full of sound and
Sounded
fury,
fury,
signifying
signifying.
nothing. How appropriate, though, is that for Kirk?
Hmm.
A poor player struts and frets his hour upon the stage and then is heard no more. And being that this is an alternate Kirk, no one's gonna care except La'an.
Mm.
Oh, that's the biggest thing in here too that
It's
I really love.
devastating, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Yeah,
tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. Anyway,
but
I wanted to
great,
reference that.
great stuff.
Yes. All right. So next week we
Mm.
are coming back with the original series.
Oh boy, be good to us, randomizer.
I don't know. I kind of want something bad. Just I
Oh,
haven't had a bad one in a
oh
while.
boy.
Oh, season 2, episode 11, Friday's Child.
Oh, okay. This is not what I meant to do. It
I
should be
am not
interesting.
familiar with this one.
It should be interesting. All right.
Okay. I'm looking really fast which one this is. Friday's Child. Yeah, I'm just looking at a couple pictures. I don't recognize this one. Cool, something I have never seen. Awesome. But of
Could be
course,
fun.
I know reference to the English poem known as Monday's Child. I know about that one. So that'll be interesting. Okay. All right. Brennan, where can the people find you?
Primarily on Blue Sky. Give you the link, but it's very, very complicated. Mm. But you find me there. You can still find me on the excerpt running this skull. Um, oh, and just a minor correction. This is the third episode.
Third?
Yeah, I believe you said the 11th episode.
Oh.
Well,
Oh,
I
episode 11 for Friday's Child is episode 11 of season 2.
really, on the website it says it's episode 3, but whatever.
Oh, okay.
And
Either way,
I've seen this episode. I like this one.
I've never seen it. I know it has Julie Newmar, which I'm always excited to see
Oh,
Julie.
yes, Julie Miller.
So, Catwoman.
Yes, and so you can also find me there, that you can find me on YouTube. That page Turner's there on it.
Of course, you can find me on Twitch and Twitter at cingle1984. But as always, we end every episode. Qapla' and live long and prosper.
Peace and long life.